on the way.
How y'all know without me knowing?
I mean, it's supposedly a baby.
We assumed that the drama around love and hip-hop was gone, until Karlie Redd suddenly interrupted the conversation. This is not just a little reality TV hoax. Rather, it is a significant discovery that may change how we view Lil Scrappy for years to come. Scrappy's love life has been the primary focus of the show. Although his sporadic relationships with Bambi and Erica Dixon have maintained viewers' curiosity, Karlie is joining the conflict in a way no one saw coming. Although she is claiming to have documentation and that there is a lot more to the affair, she is not just accusing Scrappy of misconduct. The real query is Scrappy really hiding a family? It all started with Karlie Redd's ability to keep people guessing, and this time, she wasn't simply doing it for show. Rather, she was leaving hints that left fans desperately looking for answers. At first, Karlie posted a story on Instagram that read, "Some people out here live double lives, but secrets always come out." Soon after, fans began trying to piece together what was happening, and Lil Scrappy's name began to circulate. To begin with, Karlie's relationship with Scrappy was tumultuous in the past. People quickly realized that she was talking about Scrappy because Karlie had always hinted that he wasn't as loyal as he appeared to be. Karlie, however, wasn't done playing detective. Once the Instagram post generated conversation, she showed the evidence. Karlie went live on Instagram, disclosing everything after deciding it was time to stop being secretive. To dispel the suspicions, she first claimed to have receipts and that she wasn't there to play games. Then, she showed what looked like screenshots of her and Scrappy's text exchanges, but some of them were blurry, indicating that Scrappy had been corresponding with her behind the scenes. At this point, things leveled up more wild. Instead of merely hinting at a covert relationship, Karlie explicitly said that Scrappy had been covertly supporting someone financially. Additionally, she hinted at another side of Scrappy's life that fans were not aware of. During her live stream, followers were asking her whether he had a secret child or another woman he had been caring for. Karlie didn't confirm everything because she wanted people to figure things out for themselves. And Scrappy wasn't going to leave this question unanswered, of course. His response arrived in a matter of hours, and he quickly went live to deny Karlie's allegations. As soon as fans understood that Karlie was lying, they wanted to know why Scrappy hadn't come out and said so. People began to wonder if Karlie was speaking the truth because he skirted the issue, making it seem as though he was more offended by Karlie's remarks than by the accusations. By bringing up his name, he said she was merely attempting to stay relevant and dubbed her a drama queen looking for attention. That being said, Scrappy never denied having a secret child. Social media immediately went into full investigation mode once Karlie Redd's accusations were made public. One of the biggest discoveries came from fans who immediately searched through past interviews, love and hip-hop episodes, and even mysterious social media posts that might have disclosed Scrappy's alleged secret. People also discovered an interview from 2019 where Scrappy avoided answering a question about his secrets. No one was certain why. Fans started to speculate after Scrappy had disappeared for weeks at a time. Was this the period that Karlie had been implying? Is this when the baby was born? Even previous cast members started to be featured, but looking back now, fans carried it in a whole different direction. At the time, it sounded like a joke regarding unrecorded incidents in his life. When a lady who had previously been associated with Scrappy entered the chat group, she posted an enigmatic remark on her Instagram stories, saying, "The truth always finds its way out." She made no mention of any previous instances in which Scrappy was discovered sneaking around, lying about his relationships, or concealing things from his now ex-wife, Bambi. Nor did she tag anyone or offer any further details. But by this time, conspiracy theories were abounding on the internet. Supporters flooded her comments, inquiring as to whether she was referring to Scrappy and whether she was the mother of his purported secret child. Some even re-examined her earlier posts and discovered that she had ceased social media posting around the same time Scrappy had disappeared for weeks. And guess who else wasn't buying it? Rather than resting and letting the whispers fade, Karlie Redd decided to go all out because she didn't want anyone to question her genuineness. She turned to social media posting again. As Coy put it, idlers spread lies. I exposed the truth. There was more to the situation than anyone had thought. According to her, Scrappy had been seeing this woman for years, and many in his inner circle were apparently aware of it, but chose to remain silent. All of this information was being consumed by fans, and just when it appeared that things couldn't get any dirtier, a well-known gossip blogger appeared with even more receipts. The internet was starting to think that things couldn't get any uglier when a well-known blogger stepped in with what they claimed to be real legal evidence. Court records showed if Scrappy had been covertly paying child support for a child that the public didn't even know existed. People hurried to ascertain whether the documents were authentic as soon as the claims surfaced, and social media went berserk. If so, some people started to examine every aspect, and Karlie's claims became more than simply hearsay, that if Scrappy had been making payments for a while, the secret had been evolving for years. Others were hesitant to accept the materials, questioning whether they were manipulated or misrepresented. In one response, someone stated, "Karlie may be untidy, but she rarely tells lies. I believe all that is said, plus one more." The fact that Scrappy avoids the question is a major red flag. Simply answer yes or no. I'm not surprised because Karlie typically has receipts, according to a third source. They began weaving through the mass of people, cutting a path straight towards Scrappy. Scrappy, meanwhile, was fully immersed in the music on the edge of the dance floor. He gestured to a few fans who called out his name, raising his glass in acknowledgement. He didn't notice Kirk and Jock approaching, but the people around him did. A small pocket of the crowd turned to watch as the two men closed the distance. Their confident, measured steps were a stark contrast to the chaotic movements of the dancers around them. By the time Scrappy looked up, it was too late to avoid them. Kirk stopped a few feet away, his hands in his pockets, while Jock took a step closer. The air around them seemed to change, the music fading into the background as a sudden, heavy silence took hold in their immediate space. Scrappy lowered his drink slightly, his smile dimming. His posture straightened as he sized them up. "What's going on, fellas?" Scrappy asked, his tone casual but cautious. His crew, still seated in the booth, shifted uncomfortably. A couple of them stood, their eyes locked on Kirk and Jock. The unspoken tension between the two groups was palpable, and the small circle of onlookers leaned in, sensing that something was about to happen. Kirk didn't answer right away. He looked at Scrappy, his expression unreadable, before finally speaking. "You've been running your mouth," he said, his voice low and even. "Stirring up drama. You know what I'm talking about." Scrappy raised an eyebrow, his grip tightening on the glass in his hand. "I don't know what you mean," he replied, but his voice lacked its usual. "Oh yeah? Like what?" he asked, his tone edging into defiance. His free hand balled into a fist at his side, and for the first time, he looked ready to defend himself. He took a small step forward, now standing nearly toe-to-toe with Jock. The crowd around them shifted uncomfortably, some taking a step back while others moved in closer, drawn by the magnetism of an unfolding conflict. The nightclub was no longer just a place for dancing and drinks. That pocket of space where Kirk Frost, young Jock, and Lil Scrappy stood had become an epicenter of tension. The music still thumped, lights still flashed, and people still laughed and danced nearby, but in this corner of the room, the atmosphere was entirely different. Everyone close enough to see what was happening held their breath, eyes darting between the three men. Scrappy's crew was on high alert now, some standing while others hovered near the booth, their conversations hushed but urgent. A couple of them exchanged uneasy glances as they tried to read the situation. Scrappy himself remained locked in a verbal standoff with Kirk and Jock. He was no stranger to conflict, but something about this felt different. This wasn't a heated exchange on a TV set with cameras rolling. This was real life, and the stakes were personal. Jock spoke first, his voice calm, yet cutting. "You know what this is about," he said, pointing a finger at Scrappy. "You've been talking out of line, spreading lies. You think you can just run your mouth and not face the consequences." Scrappy lifted his chin, his eyes narrowing. "If I've got something to say, I'll say it," he shot back. "But don't come at me with these weak accusations unless you've got something solid." Kirk stepped forward, his expression colder than ever. "We've got more than just words, Scrappy. We've got receipts. You want to deny what you've been saying behind our back? Fine, but we both know the truth." He pulled out his phone, unlocking it with a quick swipe before holding the screen up. The glare of the device reflected off Scrappy's face as he squinted at whatever was displayed. He couldn't make out the details, but the weight of Kirk's gesture said enough. Scrappy's jaw tightened. "So what now? You're going to show me some out-of-context messages? That's your proof? Man, miss me with that nonsense," he said, waving a dismissive hand. But his voice was less certain than before, a slight crack in his confidence beginning to show. His bravado remained intact, but his posture told a different story. He leaned slightly back, almost imperceptibly, as if bracing for the next move. Jock stepped in closer, nearly shoulder to shoulder, with Kirk now. "This isn't out of context," he said. "You've been playing both sides, saying one thing to us and another to everybody else. It's time to own up before this gets worse." Scrappy's frustration boiled over. He planted his feet and squared his shoulders, facing the two men head-on. "You think you can come in here and press me? Who do you think you are?" he said, and then, without warning, Kirk took a step forward, breaching Scrappy's personal space. His voice dropped low, nearly drowned out by the music, but still audible enough to send a chill down Scrappy's spine. "Keep talking, and you'll see what happens next." Scrappy didn't flinch. He stood his ground, his gaze locked with Kirk's. "You don't scare me," he said, his voice steady even as his heartbeat raced. "You never did." For a moment, it seemed like things would explode right then and there. Jock clenched his fists, Kirk's eyes narrowed, and Scrappy's crew edged even closer, ready to jump in at a moment's notice. The crowd around them fell into a tense silence, the music and lights almost irrelevant now. Everyone was watching, waiting, bracing for what felt inevitable. And then, just as the tension reached its peak, one of the club's security guards stepped between them. "All right, that's enough," he said, his voice firm. He placed a hand on Kirk's shoulder, gently but firmly pushing him back a step. "Take it outside or take a seat." Kirk didn't resist, but he kept his eyes locked on Scrappy, his expression still hard. Jock relaxed slightly, stepping back as well, though his stance remained defensive. Scrappy exhaled slowly, his posture loosening as the immediate threat subsided. His crew stayed put, their eyes darting between Scrappy and the two men who had been inches away from throwing the first punch. The security guard motioned for Kirk and Jock to return to their booth. "I don't care who you are," he said, his tone unyielding. "This isn't the place for that." For a moment, it seemed like Kirk and Jock might refuse. They stood their ground, their expressions unreadable, but then Kirk nodded, slipping his phone back into his pocket. "We'll settle this another time," he said, his voice low enough that only those closest could hear. Jock glanced at Scrappy one last time before turning and walking away with Kirk back toward their VIP section. Scrappy didn't move at first. He stood in place, his breath still a little heavier than normal as his crew began murmuring around him. One of his friends leaned in. "You good, man?" they asked, their tone full of concern. "I'm good," Scrappy said, though his voice carried a hint of lingering tension. He picked up his drink, took a slow sip, and turned toward his booth. They're all talk. Always have been. But as he sat down, he couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't over. The looks Kirk and Jock had given him, the way they'd approached him. This wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. As the night went on, the tension still lingered. Kirk and Jock had returned to their booth, but they weren't drinking or chatting as before. They sat quietly, their faces set in stone, eyes occasionally drifting towards Scrappy's side of the club. The energy between them had shifted. No longer were they simply a pair of men looking for a good time. Now they were men waiting, watching, and considering their next move. Scrappy, on the other hand, had done his best to shake off the confrontation. Back in his booth, he was surrounded by his crew, who were visibly still on edge. They talked in hushed tones, their body language tense, as though any sudden move might set things off again. Scrappy sipped his drink, keeping his composure, but those closest to him could see that the encounter had left him unsettled. He wasn't afraid, not exactly, but he knew this wasn't over. And he was right. Word of the altercation spread quickly throughout the club. What had started as a private standoff was now becoming public knowledge. People who had caught snippets of the heated exchange began sharing what they saw, embellishing details for dramatic effect. One woman claimed that Kirk and Jock had been ready to swing, while a man at the bar told his friends that Scrappy had stood them down like a champ. It didn't matter that the confrontation hadn't turned physical. Rumors turned it into something much larger. By the time the club's patrons started pulling out their phones, the story was already taking on a life of its own. A shaky video captured from across the room began circulating on social media. It didn't show much, just